Welcome back to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos, presented by Kaldi's Coffee and recorded right here at Bucket List Podcast Studios. This is your can't miss weekly podcast, helping you stay in the know in St. Louis. We're talking the best new restaurants, the events that you need to have on your calendar, and of course, the people that make our region the best place to live and visit. Stick around until the very end because we are going to give you a week's worth of events so you know exactly what's happening and you don't feel left out when you see it all on social media come Monday morning. And if you are a fan of the art scene, well, you are going to love this episode. I am super excited to sit down with Erin, who is the executive director of the St. Louis Dance Theater. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are just about to kick off the season.
Yes.
What's the feeling when you're like gearing up for like opening weekend?
Oh my gosh, there's so much excitement. It is really a thrilling time for us. Our dancers have actually been back in session in rehearsal since July.
Wow.
So they have been in heavy preparation mode to get all of our works really, you know, uh, clean. And also, they've been creating new works behind the scenes. And so, these new dancers that have come to our company this season, and we have, just these amazing artists at the table, both guest artists and in-house artists that are, they're really elevating the work far and beyond.
How large is the company?
We have 16 professional dancers.
Okay.
They're with us this season for 39 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We typically, from season to season, we see a little bit of turnover just because of the nature of the dance career and how short it is. But we do have quite a few returning artists coming back year after year.
For those that may not be familiar, give us a little background of what your theater and your program is all about.
Sure. Yeah. So we are a professional repertory dance company. We predominantly do contemporary work, but our dancers take ballet every morning. They have a strong ballet foundation. The work really represents a huge range of genres and styles. So in any given concert, you'll see, influences of hip hop, African dance, jazz, ballet, obviously, modern. And so the list goes on. And depending on what choreographer is showing their work on stage,
Mm-hmm.
their own voices come out and their own backgrounds and educations come out. So that's a really beautiful thing, I think, with our dancers is that they're so versatile and they can really do any type of dance. And so from beginning to end on any of our concerts, you'll see pretty much every type you can imagine.
For people that maybe aren't familiar with dance, maybe they go to the Fox or they go to the Muni during the summer, but they haven't really like dived into the dance world.
Yeah.
How do you help introduce people to that part of our art scene?
Sure. I think concert dance is sort of an anomaly to most of the general public. And it tends to be our biggest challenge is trying to convey exactly what we do to someone that's not familiar with concert dance. I think the best piece of advice I can give is just to walk in the door and watch it because really, most people who think they are not quote unquote dance people, once they see it for the first time, they completely change their tune. One thing, I think a lot of people can relate to what a classical ballet is structured like in the way that, they're telling a story, but they're not saying it with words like they would in a theatrical play. So in that regard, what we do is similar. But since we are a contemporary company, most of our work is abstract and it is much grittier than what you would typically see in a classical ballet. And we do often pull out like a narrative piece. So sometimes it's more literal and we're actually telling a story through movement. And then sometimes there is sort of an abstract idea that the choreographer is trying to tell. And it's sort of like walking into a contemporary art museum or
you might not exactly understand what's going on the wall, but you can feel something.
Yes, exactly. And the beauty of it is that the audience member can interpret it for themselves. They can make it about their own story. They can, get a feeling from the piece and, they can feel the way they want about it.
Talk to us about this first show, the kickoff of your season.
Sure. So our fall series, November 14th through 16th, is going to be a repertory concert, meaning that it features, 4 different works
Mm.
on each program. One thing that's a bit unique to us in St. Louis is that we feature different programs over the course of a weekend.
Okay.
So if you came on Friday night and Sunday night, you would see two
Oh,
different
wow.
programs, not just different pieces, but also different casts.
Mm.
So on Friday night, we will be premiering a new work by our artistic director, Kervin Douthit Boyd. It's called Unyielded. It features sound design by Uwazi Zamani, and it's really, really powerful. It really, I think, in a climate when a lot of communities are feeling like they don't have a voice, it
Mhm.
really gives them a voice, and it is bringing in all these different influences, um, and I think gives a bit of relief and hope to a wide range of people. And so that one is premiering Friday night. Saturday night and into Sunday, we're premiering a new work by Annabelle Lopez Ochoa. She's a world renowned choreographer. She has set 95 plus ballets all over
Wow.
the world, Belgian Colombian artist. And she's really brilliant in the way that she uses production
Mm.
elements to tell a story. And so in this case, this work is called Grassville, and it really leans into just kind of the feeling that, we are part of the earth, and that, like the environment around us is, that we are all part of the same thing.
Mm. Mhm.
And so she has some really beautiful language around that. Her inspiration for the piece comes from Dali's artwork.
Okay.
And so she's working with a costume designer, Mark Zapone, who has created these wild plant wigs for
Ooh.
the dancers. They're so cool. Each one is different, just like it would be in nature. And then they're moving in and out of and around tires, like
Oh,
car tires.
okay.
So it's really kind of, a testament to like what is happening around us all
Mhm.
the time in
Mhm.
the world, and what we fail to see on a daily basis, even when it's right in front of us.
I love that.
So those two works we're featuring as the world premieres on that weekend, but we're also bringing back some works from last season that
Mhm.
are really powerful. Notes on a Farewell by Tommy Wahid Evans, and we've premiered a new work by Norbert de la Cruz in the spring called The North Star that we'll be bringing back as well. So, I mean, it is a very eclectic program. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
One of the things that I think is so cool about St. Louis, especially in the arts world, is there is always something new to experience. There is always a new show, a new performance, a new exhibit. What is it like creating art in the St. Louis arts community?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I really love about the St. Louis arts community is that it is so collaborative.
Mm.
It
Mhm.
is far and beyond what I see in other cities and their arts communities. I think as an executive director, I sit at roundtables every month, sometimes bi-weekly with other arts leaders.
Mhm.
And, you know, even if we are not experiencing exactly the same trials and tribulations, because maybe we're different sizes and scopes, or
Mhm.
we're different disciplines in the arts, um, there are definitely common threads, and we can always kind of think outside the box, think creatively because we are in the arts, and figure out a way to work together to get things done. And so that's been really beautiful. I think there's a lot of divisiveness, in general. We've got so many different pockets in
Mhm.
St. Louis that each have their own story and their own um, beautiful, makeup of history and everything. One thing that the arts has been able to do is to unify and to bring everybody into one space to talk about all of those stories. So,
Kaldi's Coffee has been proudly roasting in St. Louis since 1994. Guided by a commitment to quality, service, and community, Kaldi strives to make every cup a moment of discovery. And get this, thanks to the support of their St. Louis community and fans across the country, they were named USA Today's #1 coffee chain in 2024. Visit Kaldi'sCoffee.com to find your nearest cafe, shop coffee for home, or even book a free tour and cupping at their roastery. Follow the goat to your next great coffee experience. Enjoy the rest of the episode. How do you collaborate? Let's talk about that. You guys perform at Coca, so that's a collaboration. You guys are collaborating
Yes.
with the symphony. Talk about how you, as one arts entity, collaborate with these other art entities in St.
Hmm.
Louis.
It's different every time. Uh, you, our our company has a long history of collaboration.
Mm.
We have always found partners that were aligned in the goal of bringing people together, in creating an excellent artistic product. And so the idea of reaching out and making the connection has never really been a challenge.
Hmm.
Everyone has been wide open and willing to explore what's possible. I think especially in the last 4 years or so since our artistic director Kervin came on board, he is by nature a collaborator.
Mm.
He really, I think, sees other disciplinary artworks and immediately becomes inspired to create movement in, around, with, alongside them, however possible. And so that's been really beautiful to see is, just kind of artistically how we can react to other art that we see and then vice versa.
Hmm.
So, for instance, our symphony collaboration that's happening in January, it's to Stravinsky's Pulcinella Suite. Um, that piece was one that was chosen for us to collaborate. And Stefan Deneuve is conducting, and he loves working with our dance company, but
Mm.
just with other artists in general. So when this came, to the table, Irvin jumped right on it and did a deep dive into, the feeling and the history behind the work itself, the composition. And he also loves classical music. So looking at the dichotomy between his unyielded work, which is like super gritty and, like these big bass beats and, just really fun. And then looking at Pulcinella Suite, which is very light and airy and classical, and the orchestra will be on stage with the dancers.
Wow.
It's
That's
like
what
a
I was going to ask.
totally
So
different
will
animal.
it be at Powell Hall?
It will. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll be back at the new Pal Hall.
Oh, it's
It
beautiful.
is. And yeah, the full company will be on stage with the full orchestra.
How cool is
It
that?
is amazing.
Is
Yes.
that unusual? I mean, is that a typical kind of experience in any way
I
or
wouldn't say typical. I think depending on the size of company that you're looking at,
Mhm.
it's not unusual for dance companies, particularly ballet companies, to dance to a live orchestra.
Mhm.
That's fairly common.
Okay.
Many times the orchestra will be down in the pit,
Right.
so
Well,
you
that's what
won't
I can
actually see
picture
them
is
in full. Yeah. So I think what's really cool about this is that because it's a true collaboration between our two organizations, we are figuring out the logistical part of it to make sure that the orchestra is really highlighted and that
Mhm.
that the audience is, they come to Powell Hall to celebrate and to see the symphony.
Mhm.
They absolutely will. They'll be right there on stage with our dancers, and so it's definitely a back and forth. Um, Another collaboration that we have coming up on this season is actually our second year of Gaslight Dreams, which is
Mhm.
one that we do with Jazz St. Louis
Very
in
cool.
December. This is turning into an annual holiday tradition, which is very, very fun. It's set to Duke Ellington's Nutcracker Suite.
Ugh, so
Um,
fun.
and we are we started this last year. It was the inaugural production, and again, the big band for Jazz St. Louis is on the stage with us, and they're worked into the set, which is really cool.
Mm,
It's set in Gaslight Square back in the 50s and 60s during its heyday. And the whole set, which was created by Muni's T3 team, looks like the Crystal Palace. And so
wow.
it's very era specific. But the beautiful thing about it is that, Irvin choreographing this piece and sort of coming up with an original narrative around it, he he did a deep dive into the biography of Billy Strayhorn, who was
Okay.
Duke Ellington's right-hand man in
Mm,
writing music. He was an openly gay man back in the 50s and often was not billed on
mm.
Duke Ellington's albums, at least as a co-composer, when in fact he was. So the Nutcracker Suite was the first time he was equally billed on an album, and so he has become like the central character for that work, and it tells his story about finding love and finding a muse for his work. We have a little spotlight of Josephine Baker coming through,
Love
and
it.
so like he's trying to write a song for her to perform. So there are a lot of beautiful moments in that one that highlight not just the dance and the music and the collaboration piece, but also like the art working together.
You mentioned there's a lot of big themes
Yes.
that, while if you were thinking about these themes in terms of a play, even a musical, it's maybe more obvious. This is a bit more nuanced
hmm
when you're seeing it in a dance. How do you hope though, and what excites you about being able to tackle some of those themes in a way that gets people really thinking outside of the box, maybe outside of their perspective and really seeing that on stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, what these collaborations can do for the world of concert dance is that, there are so many jazz music fans and classical music fans and visual art fans and, these patrons of other disciplines.
Mm,
That is their world. That's what they know. So if we can come in and ease them into the idea of concert dance as a very rich and rewarding discipline to come and attend on a
mhm.
regular basis, then we've just we've just won. We've opened their door to step into something that's new, but make it a little bit more familiar.
Yeah, because if you think about it, yeah, especially Powell Hall, you're gonna have people that they go to Powell Hall
Oh, that's their
anytime they
thing.
can,
Yeah.
and now they're getting to experience another piece of our
Yes.
art scene, and they may become a really big fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just we're introducing ourselves to new audiences in this way.
Give us a little background of the theater company. You guys started when?
We started in 2010,
Okay.
so we are currently in our 15th anniversary season.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Um, and yeah, we started very, very small, grassroots organization. Over the years, we have steadily increased our performances, increased our infrastructure. We have, built this organization and sort of um, base of audiences and
Mhm.
donors and everything else that has followed us and have elevated along with us. And so, like I said, about 4 years ago when Curvin came on board, he really elevated the work in a big way. He has a brilliant career behind him. He was a dancer with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in New York for 12 years. He, has explored the world through the world of dance. And so when he came to St. Louis, originally to direct dance at Coca
Mhm.
with his husband Antonio, um, he really saw St. Louis for its potential,
I love
and
that.
I think he really understood. There already is such a thriving art scene here in St. Louis. We need to build dance as that final piece of the puzzle to really mark St. Louis as an arts destination. And that's been a goal of ours all along. It's something that we feel you look at any major city across the US, and if they have what we would consider to be a destination art scene, dance is very much present. It is a big piece of that.
Do you feel like we lacked that for a while?
You know, St. Louis has had a dance community here for some time, but is it visible beyond the borders of St. Louis? I don't know. You know, I think that um, locally there is some support for what we do. I think in the last 10, 15 years, that dance community has really increased and amped up. And it's exciting because I think what we need to see is just an explosion of growth, really, to become visible outside of our parameter.
Yeah, is that the goal, to really get people that are coming into St. Louis
Yes.
for this just as much as they would for, say, the symphony or another performance-based art?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have a vision way down the road of, you know, a touring roster, a multi-city touring roster that would, you know, entice people to travel to St. Louis because they just haven't had enough. They still want more.
Love it.
And, you know, working with these other arts organizations, that's a really powerful tool. I mean, for all of us to be working together towards that end goal is much more productive than if any one of us were doing it by ourselves.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing, like what arts do as an economic driver for tourism in St. Louis is huge. I mean,
I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but I remember doing a story about that. And I think it was maybe when the symphony was starting the construction on Powell Hall, and the stats of what art tourism means in St. Louis.
yes,
It's incredible.
it really is. I mean, when you consider all of the arts as one community, I mean, we are bringing in more than sports for sure as an economic driver. And it definitely, at the end of the day, arts define the culture of a place, of a city, of a community. So we want to make sure that St. Louis, when people outside of St. Louis think of us, they think of our art because that's really what's going to drive the point home that this is the place they want to go or live.
I love it. And I'm a big art supporter. I grew up in the arts. I grew up doing dance at Coca and, you know, performances. And I think so much of it does start with our youth. How do we help get kids interested? It's hard. You know, there's a lot of things that pull kids' attention away. How do we start kids at a young age so that they become supporters as they grow up of the art scene?
I mean, I think there is a perception that in order for kids or even adults to like dance, they have to be a dancer, and that's absolutely not the case. I think you know, we do train youth in dance. Like we have a couple of educational programs that support ages 10 and up. So we definitely work with young dancers in that way. But we also, you know, for our Sunday matinee performances, we have what we call the kids circle, and we do, you know, sort of a movement activity and sort of a side class, if you will, during the Sunday matinee performance so that the parents can go in and enjoy the performance. But we also sneak the kids in. I mean, we're talking ages 3 through 8, young ones, right? And we sneak them into the balcony during one of the pieces so that they can see just one piece and they can understand, what does it mean to be an audience member? Are you, you know, you clap your hands at the end and you stay quiet as you can during the piece and all of that, you know. So trying to sort of ease them into the etiquette of what that means to be in a theater and to watch and be engaged. To expect my 3-year-old to sit there for 2 hours in the dark is probably unrealistic, but he could handle a 20-minute piece and he would probably be enthralled.
Yeah.
You know, so we want that. We want to raise this next generation of arts patrons.
You were a dancer, are a dancer.
Yes.
Did you say are?
Dancer for life.
Dancer for life.
Yes.
I love it. Can you give me a little of your background? You're from St.
Yeah,
Louis.
I
Did you start
am.
dancing at a young age?
I did. I started dancing when I was 3.
Okay.
I went to Dance Center of Kirkwood,
Okay.
which is right over
Mhm.
on Manchester and Woodlawn. And yeah, I did sort of the typical, I danced in competitions. I grew up training in ballet, tap, and jazz. I ended up dancing in college. I majored, one of my 2 majors was in dance at Colorado State University. And then I danced in Boston and Providence for a little while on the East
Mhm.
Coast, and then ended up coming back to St. Louis, as we do, boomerang kid.
Mhm.
Um, and when I came back, I performed a little bit with some pickup companies here, but to the point of how much this community has grown, there was not a lot of opportunity for professional performance
Yeah.
in St. Louis. And so, I took class and rehearsed whenever I could with whomever I could because I was grounded here for a myriad of reasons. And then when I went back to school for my master's, Paula David, who was our founder, she started teaching classes and you know, uh, just setting work on a group of about 6 of us volunteer dancers because we just wanted to move in
Yeah.
the studio. That's all. And so that's kind of how it started. And from that point, it was, we would look for whatever opportunities we could to be seen. We're dancing at festivals
Mhm.
outside, we're, makeshifting theaters in event spaces, and we were just all over the place. And slowly but surely started to build an audience and get the thing off the ground. I'm still, best friends with the majority of our OGs, as we call ourselves, because, when you build something from scratch out of nothing, it's like, trial by fire, and you're all in it together, and it's a really beautiful thing. And I think what's even more beautiful is how far it's come.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If you look back, could you
Yeah.
15 years ago imagined where you guys would be now?
No, no, I honestly no. I think we all kind of had this blurry dream of what
Mhm.
it might be, but there was so much unknown at the time, and now I think our future vision is so much clearer because we know what's possible, and we have the support to move forward. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I really give so much of that props to my counterpart Curvin and our board of directors. They all have really kind of formulated what this end goal is going to look like.
What is the best way that people can support our art scene so that it can continue to grow and thrive? And yes, are we ever going to be New York and Broadway? No, probably not. But we have something very special here in St. Louis.
Yes.
What is the best way people can support that?
Come see a show. Just come. I think, I mean, there are so many ways you could do that. You could bring a whole group of friends with you. You could subscribe to the season. I mean, in any way, shape, or form you can attend and see the work. That is the best way to support.
Do you have moments where you get to talk to people after they've maybe come to that first performance where they've been that person like, oh, I don't
Oh
know if I
yeah.
really want to go to a dance
Oh yeah.
What's that feeling to like
Oh,
watch the change in their eyes?
absolute delight. I mean, even the other day we had a guest in to watch a rehearsal, and he had always sort of identified himself as a dance novice, I
Mhm.
guess. But also, he just said, I'm not a dance person. I don't get it.
Mhm.
It's not my thing. He had never seen what we do. And I don't know if he had ever seen any concert dance at all, but he was absolutely beside himself after he saw our dancers just run one piece. That's all he saw. And he was turned right upside down, and it was amazing. And we see that all the time. I think um, I used to say that our quintessential target audience member is the Cards fan. It's like the guy chugging beer over in the corner that has no idea that
Mhm.
he's going to love concert dance, but we're going to turn him around.
Well, you have 100% convinced me, and I cannot wait for this season. We'll include lots of information on how people can find you and your performances in the description of this episode.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
And let's dive into the rest of things that are on the calendar for this week. You heard all about it in this week's episode, but the St. Louis Dance Theater Fall Series kicks off this weekend, November 14th through 16th. The Gateway Outdoor Expo at the St. Charles Convention Center is this weekend, November 14th through 16th. And The Lion King will be performed at Powell Hall, the movie version with the live symphony orchestra, happening Saturday, November 15th through Sunday, November 16th. And the holiday season is underway. The Polar Express at Union Station kicks off November 14th, and the Garden Glow at the Missouri Botanical Garden kicks off November 15th. As always, don't forget to subscribe to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Soto so you can stay in the know each week in St. Louis. Thanks for listening.